The classroom fell silent as cruel laughter echoed against the walls. A small boy with one leg stood trembling, tears streaming down his face. But no one expected the barefoot girl who burst through the door, changing their lives forever. Where in the world are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more emotional stories that will touch your heart. Get out! We don't have space for special needs children in this classroom. Ms. Reynolds' voice sliced through the air like a knife. 6-year-old Oliver Blackwood clutched his desk, his small body trembling as 30 pairs of eyes fixed on him. The classroom at Westfield Elementary had fallen deadly silent. "But I can keep up with everyone," Oliver whispered, his voice barely audible. His right pant leg was pinned neatly where his missing limb should have been. The prosthetic leg his father had specially designed lay broken in his backpack. Ms. Reynolds had accidentally knocked it down the stairs earlier that morning. "I said, out!" she shrieked, pointing to the door. "This is an elite classroom for normal children." The first giggle came from the back, then another, until the room erupted in cruel laughter. Oliver felt hot tears streaming down his cheeks as he struggled to balance on his crutch. His father had warned him that some people wouldn't understand, but he never imagined his own teacher, his father's new wife, would be the cruelest of all. As he hobbled toward the door, Ms. Reynolds smirked. Just 3 months as Nathan Blackwood's wife, and soon she'd have control of everything, starting with getting rid of this brat who stood between her and billions. Just as Oliver reached the doorway, it burst open. A small girl with wild, tangled hair and clothes too big for her thin frame stood there, eyes blazing with an intensity that seemed impossibly mature for her 7 years. "Leave him alone!" The girl's voice rang clear and strong as she positioned herself between Oliver and the teacher. Ms. Reynolds stepped back, momentarily stunned. "Who are you?" "How did you get in here?" "My name is Lily," the girl replied, her chin lifted defiantly, despite her ragged appearance. "And you're being mean to him for no reason." The classroom fell silent again, this time in shock. No one had ever dared to challenge Ms. Reynolds before. "Security!" Ms. Reynolds screeched into the hallway. "We have a homeless intruder." Lily didn't budge. Instead, she turned to Oliver, her expression softening. "You okay?" Before Oliver could respond, heavy footsteps thundered down the hallway. But it wasn't security. It was Nathan Blackwood himself, his imposing 6'4" frame filling the doorway, his eyes taking in the scene in one sweeping glance. "Daddy!" Oliver cried out, relief washing over his tear-stained face. Nathan's gaze darted from his son to the small girl, protecting him, to his new wife, whose face had drained of all color. In that moment, he saw everything with perfect clarity. "Nathan," Ms. Reynolds stammered, "I heard everything, Catherine," Nathan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "Every single word." No one in the room moved. No one even breathed. "Oliver," Nathan said gently, kneeling down to his son's eye level. "Are you all right?" Oliver nodded shakily, but his eyes were fixed on Lily, who still stood protectively in front of him. Nathan turned to the little girl. "And you must be Lily. Thank you for standing up for my son." Lily's fierce expression faltered for the first time. Someone had to. Nathan Blackwood's mind was racing as he looked at the brave little girl standing before him. Her clothes were worn and dirty, her sneakers held together with duct tape, yet there was something in her eyes that spoke of a strength beyond her years. "Where are your parents, Lily?" Nathan asked gently. The girl's shoulders tensed. "Don't have any, not anymore." Catherine Reynolds cleared her throat. "Nathan, surely you're not going to listen to some vagrant child who broke into our school. She needs to be removed immediately." "And as for Oliver, I was simply enforcing school policy about—" "Enough!" Nathan's voice cut through the room like a thunderclap. He turned to address the class. "Children, please gather your things and wait in the library. Your principal will arrange for a substitute teacher." As the stunned children filed out, Nathan pulled out his phone and made a brief call. Within minutes, the school principal, Mr. Daniels, appeared at the doorway looking flustered. "Mr. Blackwood, what seems to be the problem?" "The problem, Charles, is that my wife has been abusing her position to torment my son, and apparently your security is so lax that children can wander in off the street." Nathan's voice remained controlled, but ice cold. "I'd like to speak with you privately after I settle this immediate situation." Catherine's face contorted with rage. "You can't possibly believe—" "I heard you, Catherine. I saw you break Oliver's prosthetic this morning. I installed cameras in our home 2 weeks ago when things started disappearing from my office." The color drained from Catherine's face. "You were spying on me." "Call it due diligence," Nathan replied flatly. "I believe our 3-month marriage has reached its conclusion." Catherine's expression shifted from shock to calculation. "You signed a prenup, remember? You'll still owe me plenty." Nathan smiled thinly. "The prenup has a morality clause. Breaking a disabled child's prosthetic leg qualifies as immoral behavior. I believe any court would agree." He turned his back on her, focusing instead on the children. Oliver was leaning against the wall, exhausted from standing on one leg for so long. Lily hovered nearby, watching everything with wary eyes. "Oliver," Nathan said softly, "would you like to go home now?" Oliver nodded, then hesitated, looking at Lily. "What about her? She helped me." Nathan studied the little girl. "Lily, where have you been staying?" She shrugged. "Different places. The shelter when it's not full, the park when it's warm enough." Nathan made a decision in that moment that would alter the course of all their lives. "Would you like to come home with us for now, just until we figure things out?" Lily's eyes widened with suspicion. "Why would you do that?" "Because you helped my son when no one else would," Nathan replied simply, "and I believe in repaying kindness." Catherine laughed bitterly. "You can't be serious, Nathan. Taking in some street urchin? What will people say?" "I don't care what people say," Nathan replied, not even bothering to look at her. "Mr. Daniels, please escort my soon-to-be ex-wife to collect her personal belongings. She won't be teaching here anymore." As they left the building, Oliver riding piggyback on his father's strong shoulders, and Lily walking cautiously beside them, Catherine Reynolds watched from the window, her beautiful face twisted with hatred. "This isn't over," she whispered. "Not by a long shot." The Blackwood mansion sprawled across 5 acres of manicured grounds, its stone facade gleaming in the afternoon sunlight. As Nathan's Bentley rolled through the wrought iron gates, Lily pressed her face against the window, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You live in a castle," she whispered to Oliver, who sat beside her in the back seat. Oliver smiled shyly. "It's just a house, but it's pretty big." "Oliver understates things," Nathan said, catching Lily's eye in the rearview mirror. "It is rather excessive for just the 2 of us." As they pulled up to the grand entrance, an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes emerged from the front doors. Mrs. Winters had been the Blackwood housekeeper for 30 years, and she'd never approved of Catherine Reynolds from the moment Nathan had brought her home. "Oh, my poor lamb," she exclaimed, rushing to help Oliver from the car. Her practiced hands quickly examined him for injuries. "And who is this young lady?" she asked, noticing Lily hanging back by the car. "This is Lily," Nathan explained, briefly recounting the morning's events. "She'll be staying with us for a while." Mrs. Winter's eyes softened as she took in Lily's appearance. "Well then, let's get you both inside. I believe fresh-baked cookies and hot chocolate are in order after such an ordeal." Lily followed them cautiously, her eyes darting everywhere as if mapping escape routes. The marble foyer with its soaring ceiling and crystal chandelier made her gasp audibly. She'd never seen anything like it except in movies. "First things first, Mrs. Winters declared once they were settled in the kitchen. "A proper bath and clean clothes for Miss Lily, I think, while Mr. Blackwood makes some calls." Lily stiffened. What kind of calls? Nathan set his phone on the counter. Legal ones, primarily. "I need to start divorce proceedings against Catherine and contact social services about your situation. But," he added, seeing her panicked expression, "I promise you won't be sent back to the streets or put somewhere unsafe." "How can you promise that?" Lily challenged, her small fists clenching. "Adults always promise things they can't deliver." The room fell silent. Even Oliver looked down at his hot chocolate, unable to meet Lily's eyes. Nathan knelt to Lily's level. "You're right to question me. Trust is earned, not given. So let me make a more honest promise. I will do everything in my considerable power to ensure your safety and well-being, and I will be transparent with you every step of the way." Lily studied his face for a long moment. "Okay," she finally said, "but I'm not taking a bath until you make those calls where I can hear them." Nathan couldn't help but smile. Deal. While Oliver rested on the kitchen sofa, still exhausted from the morning's trauma, Nathan made his calls with Lily sitting across from him, listening to every word. He first contacted his lawyer about the divorce, then made a more delicate call to a judge he knew personally about Lily's situation. "Yes, Judge Harrison, the girl essentially has no documentation. No, I understand the protocols. Yes, I'm aware emergency foster certification takes time." He glanced at Lily, who was watching him intently. "I'd like to apply for temporary guardianship while the proper investigations are conducted." By the time he finished, Lily's rigid posture had relaxed slightly. True to his word, Nathan had been fighting for her from the very first call. "Satisfied?" he asked her. She nodded cautiously. "For now." Mrs. Winters appeared with a stack of children's clothes. "These were put away for donation, but they should fit well enough until we can get proper things." As Lily followed Mrs. Winters upstairs for her bath, Oliver tugged at his father's sleeve. "Dad, is Lily really going to stay with us?" Nathan looked down at his son, at the hope shining in his eyes. "Would you like that?" Oliver nodded eagerly. "She was so brave. I wish I could be brave like her." Nathan hugged his son close. "You are brave, Oliver, every single day." He kissed the top of Oliver's head. "And I'm sorry I didn't see what Catherine was doing to you sooner." "It's okay, Dad. You saw eventually." Oliver's simple forgiveness nearly broke Nathan's heart. "And now we have Lily." But outside the mansion gates, Catherine Reynolds sat in her luxury car, watching the house through binoculars, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against the steering wheel as she plotted her revenge. 3 weeks passed in a blur of new routines and cautious adjustments. Lily's official status remained in limbo, but Judge Harrison had granted Nathan temporary guardianship pending the full investigation. Oliver had started at a new school, a progressive private academy where his prosthetic leg drew curious questions rather than cruel taunts. Lily, however, remained at the mansion. Social workers came and went, their clipboards and concerned expressions making her retreat further into herself each time. Nathan had hired tutors to assess her education level, discovering that despite her circumstances, she was remarkably intelligent. "She's reading at a 5th grade level," reported Ms. Bailey, the reading specialist. "And her mathematical intuition is quite extraordinary. With proper guidance, she could excel academically." Nathan nodded, unsurprised. He'd seen Lily devouring books from his library, her small fingers tracing the lines of text with reverent focus. He'd also caught her solving Oliver's homework problems when she thought no one was looking. That evening, Nathan found Lily sitting on the window seat in the library, knees pulled up to her chest as she stared out at the darkening grounds. "May I join you?" he asked, maintaining the respectful distance she still seemed to need. She nodded, without looking at him. "The social worker called today," Nathan said gently. "They've been unable to locate any living relatives." Lily's shoulders tensed. "I already told you that." "I know, but they needed to confirm it." He hesitated. "Lily, I'd like to discuss something important with you." She finally turned to look at him, her eyes guarded. "Are you sending me away?" "Quite the opposite, actually." Nathan sat down, leaving space between them. "I'd like to apply for permanent guardianship. Eventually, if you're comfortable with it, I'd like to formally adopt you." Lily's eyes widened. "Why would you want to do that?" "Because in these 3 weeks you've brought something special into our home." Oliver smiles more. He's more confident. "And frankly, I think you belong here with us." Lily looked down at her hands. "What if your wife comes back?" "Ex-wife," Nathan corrected firmly, "and she has no claim on this family anymore." Little did they know that at that very moment, Catherine Reynolds was sliding into a booth across from Martin Greaves, the CFO of Blackwood Industries. "Thanks for meeting me, Martin," she purred, her red lips curving into a predatory smile. Martin shifted uncomfortably. "This is highly inappropriate, Catherine. Nathan doesn't need to know," she interrupted. "Unless, of course, you'd like him to find out about those creative accounting practices you've been using to fund your gambling habit." The color drained from Martin's face. "How did you—" "I make it my business to know things about important men," Catherine said, sliding a folder across the table. "Nothing too damaging yet. Just enough to start redirecting some of Blackwood's assets to offshore accounts I control." Back at the mansion, Lily was still processing Nathan's offer. What about Oliver? Wouldn't he mind? As if summoned by his name, Oliver appeared in the doorway, his new prosthetic leg allowing him to move with surprising agility. "Mind what?" he asked, limping to join them. "Your father wants to be my guardian. Maybe adopt me someday." Oliver's face lit up. "Really? That would make us like brother and sister." His enthusiasm was so genuine that Lily felt something warm unfurl in her chest, something dangerously like hope. "There's something else," Nathan added. "I think it's time for Lily to join you at Westridge Academy, Oliver, if she'd like to, of course." The siblings exchanged a glance, Oliver's excitement meeting Lily's apprehension. "The kids there are nice," Oliver assured her. "Not like at the old school." Lily bit her lip. "But what if they ask questions about where I came from?" Nathan leaned forward. "You tell them whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Your story is yours to tell or not tell as you choose." For the first time since arriving at the Blackwood mansion, Lily felt a real smile spread across her face. "I'd like to try school." None of them could have predicted the chain of events this decision would set in motion, or how Catherine's vengeful plotting would collide with their newfound happiness. For deep in the Blackwood Industries systems, financial irregularities were beginning to appear, small at first, but growing larger with each passing day. And in a modest apartment across town, a young journalist named Jessica Chen was staring at her computer screen, frowning at an anonymous tip that had just arrived in her inbox. Blackwood Industries CEO stealing from charity funds to purchase orphaned child. Jessica's finger hovered over the delete key. It sounded too sensational to be credible, but something made her hesitate. What if there was even a grain of truth to it? Lily's first day at Westridge Academy arrived with September's golden light streaming through the windows. She stood in front of the bedroom mirror, her own bedroom, still a concept that felt foreign, smoothing down the pleats of her uniform skirt for the 10th time. "You look perfect," Mrs. Winters assured her, adjusting the collar of Lily's crisp white blouse. "Every inch the proper young lady." Lily hardly recognized herself. 2 months ago, she'd been sleeping under a bridge, scrounging for food. Now her reflection showed a clean, well-dressed girl with shining hair and clear eyes. Only the wariness behind those eyes remained unchanged. Downstairs, Oliver waited by the front door, practically bouncing with excitement. "We're going to be late. Come on, Lily." Nathan appeared from his home office, car keys in hand. "It's your first day. I'm driving you both myself." As the Bentley pulled up to the imposing brick building of Westridge Academy, Lily's courage nearly failed her. Children in identical uniforms streamed through the ornate gates, many accompanied by drivers or nannies. "Everyone's staring," Lily whispered, shrinking back against the leather seat. "They're curious about the new student," Nathan explained gently. "That's natural." Oliver grabbed her hand. "Don't worry, I'll be with you." Taking a deep breath, Lily stepped out of the car. Nathan walked them to the administration office, where the headmistress, Dr. Eleanor Foster, greeted them warmly. "Ah, Miss Lily, we've been eagerly awaiting your arrival." She bent slightly to address Lily directly. "Oliver has told us so much about his brave new sister." Sister. The word still felt strange, like clothes that didn't quite fit. "I've arranged for Oliver to show you around this morning," Dr. Foster continued. "Your classes begin after lunch, giving you time to acclimate." As Nathan prepared to leave, Lily felt a sudden surge of panic. He must have seen it in her eyes because he knelt down to her level. "I'll be back at 3 o'clock sharp," he promised. "And you can call me any time if you need to. The office has my direct number." Across town, Jessica Chen sat across from her editor, Marcus Baldwin, who was scanning the preliminary article she'd drafted. "It's thin, Jessica," he said, pushing the pages back across his desk. "Anonymous tips about billionaires exploiting children? That's tabloid territory." "But what if it's true?" Jessica insisted. "Nathan Blackwood suddenly takes in a homeless girl right when his charity is under financial review. It's worth looking into." Marcus sighed. "Get me something concrete. Financial records, witness statements, anything. Until then, this stays on your desk, not in our paper." "A deal." Back at Westridge, Lily was discovering that Oliver's assessment of the school had been overly optimistic. While the teachers were kind, the students were another matter entirely. "Is it true you were homeless?" asked a girl with gleaming blonde hair during lunch. "Did you eat from garbage cans?" Lily stiffened, but before she could respond, another voice cut in. "Is it true your daddy bought you that nose for your birthday, Vanessa? Because whoever did the work should get a refund." The speaker was a girl with dark curls and bright eyes who slid into the seat next to Lily. "I'm Zoe. You must be Lily. Oliver told me about you." Vanessa huffed away, and Lily shot Zoe a grateful look. "Don't mind the plastic people," Zoe advised, offering Lily half her chocolate bar. "Their parents are rich, but they're bankrupt in the brain department." By the time the final bell rang, Lily had survived her first day with only minor emotional bruising. She rushed out to find Nathan already waiting, leaning against his car with a smile that brightened when he saw her. "How was it?" he asked as they drove home. "Different," Lily admitted, "but I met a nice girl named Zoe." Oliver piped up from the back seat. "Zoe is the coolest. Her mom's a judge, and her dad designs video games." Nathan nodded approvingly, but his phone buzzed before he could respond. The caller ID showed his CFO's name. Frowning, he answered on the car's speaker system. "Martin, what's so urgent?" "Nathan, we have a situation. The quarterly audit has flagged some irregularities in the foundation accounts." Nathan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "What kind of irregularities?" "Unauthorized transfers, small amounts at first, but they've been increasing. And," Martin hesitated, "a reporter's been asking questions about you and the children." In the passenger seat, Lily went very still, her earlier happiness evaporating like morning dew. She recognized the pattern: happiness discovered, happiness destroyed. "I see," Nathan said, his voice carefully controlled. I'll be there in 20 minutes. After dropping the children at home, Nathan drove straight to his corporate headquarters. He didn't notice the black sedan that pulled out after him, or the photographer who snapped photos of Lily and Oliver entering the Blackwood mansion. Inside that sedan, Catherine Reynolds smiled as she reviewed the images on the camera's display screen. "Perfect," she murmured. "Just perfect." Jessica Chen's heels clicked against the polished marble of Blackwood Industries' lobby as she approached the reception desk. Her press badge was prominently displayed, a calculated risk that might get her removed immediately or grant her valuable access. "I'm here to see Nathan Blackwood," she stated confidently. The receptionist's perfectly shaped eyebrow arched skeptically. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I believe he'll want to speak with me regarding the foundation funds and his recent family addition." The careful phrasing worked. Within minutes, she was escorted to a conference room where a visibly irritated Nathan Blackwood was waiting with his legal counsel. "Ms. Chen," Nathan acknowledged coldly, "I understand you've been making some provocative inquiries about my family." Jessica placed her recorder on the table. "Mr. Blackwood, our readers are naturally curious about your sudden guardianship of an undocumented child, especially coinciding with financial irregularities in your charitable foundation." Nathan's expression didn't change, but his eyes hardened. "You've been misinformed. May I ask who your source is?" "You know I can't reveal that," Jessica replied smoothly, "but they provided compelling evidence suggesting you've been diverting charity funds to fast-track an adoption and perhaps purchase influence with certain officials." The lawyer began to interject, but Nathan held up his hand. "Ms. Chen, you seem intelligent. So I wonder why you'd risk a defamation lawsuit by pursuing such an obviously manufactured narrative." He slid a folder across the table. "These are the official financial records of the Blackwood Foundation for the past 3 years. You'll note the irregularities only began 2 months ago, after I filed for divorce from Catherine Reynolds." Jessica's journalistic instincts tingled. This wasn't the defensive bluster she'd expected. "You're suggesting your ex-wife is behind this?" "I'm not suggesting anything," Nathan replied coolly. "I'm giving you access to verified financial records and timeline facts. Draw your own conclusions." Back at the Blackwood mansion, Lily was helping Oliver with his math homework when Mrs. Winters entered with an unusual expression of concern. "Children, I need you to pack overnight bags," she said, her normally steady voice slightly strained. "Just essentials." Oliver looked up, puzzled. "Are we going somewhere?" "Your father called. He thinks it would be best if you stayed at the lake house for a few days." She smiled reassuringly, but Lily wasn't fooled. "Something's wrong," Lily stated flatly. "What is it?" Mrs. Winters hesitated before sitting down with them. "There may be some unpleasant stories in the media soon. Your father wants to protect you from that." Lily's mind raced with scenarios, each worse than the last. "Is it about me? Are they saying he shouldn't have taken me in?" "Nonsense," Mrs. Winters said firmly. "It's financial nonsense that has nothing to do with either of you. But there might be photographers trying to get pictures, and you know how your father feels about your privacy." As they packed, Lily slipped into Oliver's room. He was meticulously arranging his medication and spare parts for his prosthetic. "Do you believe her?" Lily asked quietly. "About it not being about us?" Oliver considered this. "Dad wouldn't lie to Mrs. Winters, but—" He hesitated. "Sometimes adults don't tell the whole truth to protect kids." Lily nodded grimly. "We need to know what's really happening." With silent agreement, they crept down to Nathan's home office. Oliver knew the password to his father's personal laptop. Nathan had shared it for emergencies. And soon they were scrolling through recent emails. "Look at this one," Lily whispered, pointing to a message from Nathan's lawyer, "regarding custody challenge, dated yesterday." Oliver clicked it open, and they read in growing horror about Catherine Reynolds filing for custody of Oliver, claiming Nathan was an unfit father who was endangering his son by bringing a street child with unknown mental issues into their home. "She can't do that," Oliver whispered, his face pale. "She's the one who hurt me." "She's trying to hurt your dad by taking you away," Lily said, the pieces clicking together in her mind. "And she's using me to do it." A plan began forming in Lily's mind, one she knew Oliver and Nathan would never approve of. But if she disappeared, Catherine would have no ammunition against Nathan. Oliver would be safe. That night, after everyone was asleep, Lily crept out of her room with her old backpack, the one she'd arrived with, now filled with a few essentials. She left a note on her pillow. "I'm sorry. This is the only way to protect you both. Thank you for everything. Love, Lily." She was halfway down the grand staircase when a voice stopped her. "You're going somewhere." Nathan stood in the foyer, still dressed in his business suit, his eyes tired but alert. "I saw the emails," Lily admitted, clutching her backpack straps. "She's using me to try to take Oliver away from you." Nathan climbed the stairs until he was eye level with her. "And you thought the solution was to run away?" If I'm gone, she can't say I'm a danger to Oliver." Nathan shook his head slowly. "Lily, do you know what I told my lawyer today? I said that under no circumstances would I ever separate you and Oliver. That you two are a package deal now." Tears welled in Lily's eyes. "But what if she wins?" "She won't," Nathan said with quiet certainty. "Because unlike Catherine, we have the truth on our side, and tomorrow we're going to start fighting back." The lake house was a rustic sanctuary compared to the Blackwood mansion, smaller but still luxurious, nestled among pine trees with a sweeping view of Lake Tahoe. For the next week, it became their fortress against the gathering media storm. Nathan had taken emergency leave from Blackwood Industries, leaving his trusted COO in charge while he focused entirely on protecting his family. Each morning began with a conference call with his legal team, followed by homeschooling sessions for the children, whom he'd temporarily withdrawn from Westridge. "I don't understand this one," Oliver complained, frowning at a mathematics problem. Lily, who had been quietly working through her own assignments, leaned over to look. "It's a rate problem. You need to find how long it takes for both pipes to fill the pool together." Nathan watched their interaction with a bittersweet smile. Despite the crisis enveloping them, the children were bonding in ways that seemed almost miraculous given their short time together. His phone buzzed. Jessica Chen again. After their initial confrontation, she'd surprised him by digging deeper into Catherine's activities, rather than publishing a sensationalized hit piece. He stepped onto the deck to take the call. "Mr. Blackwood, I found something," Jessica said without preamble. "Financial transfers from an offshore account linked to Martin Greaves to a judge on the family court roster, Judge Raymond Keller." Nathan's grip tightened on the phone. "The judge assigned to our case." "Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. Catherine Reynolds had 3 private meetings with Keller before filing for custody." "Can you prove this connection?" Nathan asked, his mind racing. "I'm working on it, but there's something else. I've been contacted by a former student from Westfield Elementary. She claims to have witnessed Catherine's abuse of Oliver and has videos from the classroom." For the first time in days, Nathan felt a flicker of hope. "I need that footage, and I need to know if this student would be willing to testify." Inside, Lily was helping Oliver with another problem when she noticed a black SUV coming up the private road to the lake house, unusual since the property was gated and isolated. "Oliver," she said quietly, "go get your dad, now." As Oliver hurried outside, Lily moved to the window, watching as the vehicle stopped at the gate. 2 men emerged, one with a professional camera, the other carrying what looked like official documents. Nathan came inside quickly, his expression grim as he peered through the blinds. Process server with a photographer. Catherine's getting creative. He turned to the children. Go to the panic room. Remember the drill we practiced. They nodded solemnly. Nathan had shown them the hidden room, accessible through the pantry, complete with emergency supplies and a separate communication system. What about you? Lily asked, her eyes wide with worry. I'm going to handle this legally and properly, Nathan assured her, but I need to know you're both safe while I do. As the children secured themselves in the panic room, Nathan answered the gate intercom. Mr. Blackwood, came a formal voice. I have court documents to serve regarding custody of Oliver Blackwood. You may leave them in the document box by the gate, Nathan replied calmly. Sir, I'm required to deliver them personally. Then you're out of luck. This is private property, and you do not have permission to enter. Nathan's voice remained measured, but firm. The document box is your only option, or you can serve them to my attorney. After several minutes of back and forth, the process server finally relented, depositing the documents and departing with the frustrated photographer. Inside the panic room, Lily and Oliver sat side by side on the small cot, listening through the security system. I'm scared, Oliver admitted quietly. Lily took his hand. Your dad won't let her take you. It's not just that, Oliver said. What if they separate us? What if they send you away? The thought had haunted Lily too, though she'd tried not to show it. Then I'll find my way back, she promised, no matter what. When Nathan opened the panic room door 30 minutes later, his expression was difficult to read. The children looked up expectantly. The documents are exactly what we anticipated, an emergency custody hearing scheduled for next week, he explained, sitting down between them. But there's good news too. Jessica Chen has found a witness willing to testify about Catherine's behavior at school. Who? Oliver asked. A student named Zoe Mitchell. Lily's eyes widened. Zoe from school. She saw what happened that day? Nathan nodded. Apparently she recorded it on her phone because she was planning to report Catherine to the principal. She never did because I handled it that day, but she kept the video. So, we're going to win? Oliver asked hopefully. We have a much stronger case now, Nathan said carefully. But Catherine still has powerful connections, and Martin's embezzled funds at her disposal. Later that night, as the children slept, Nathan sat on the deck staring out at the moonlit lake. The court documents had contained something he hadn't shared with the children, allegations that he had engaged in human trafficking by purchasing Lily from unknown sources. The audacity of the lie took his breath away. More troubling was the implied threat. If he fought for Oliver, Catherine would destroy Lily's chances of ever having a normal life by painting her as a victim of trafficking. His phone lit up with a text from Jessica Chen. New information. Need to meet in person. Safe house only. Catherine Reynolds was escalating the fight. It was time for Nathan to do the same. The hotel conference room had been secured under a false name, with security sweeps for recording devices completed before anyone arrived. Nathan sat at the head of the table, flanked by his chief legal counsel and Jessica Chen, whose investigative skills had proven invaluable. Let's review what we know, Nathan began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. Catherine has bribed Judge Keller, who's presiding over the custody hearing. Martin Greaves has been siphoning money from the foundation to fund her efforts, and now they're fabricating trafficking allegations against me regarding Lily. Jessica opened her laptop. I've traced the offshore accounts Martin created. He's moved approximately $15 million over the past 2 months. Nathan's lawyer, Michael Stern, frowned. That's excessive even for bribing officials. She must have a bigger plan. She does, Jessica confirmed, turning her laptop to show them an email exchange she'd uncovered. Catherine's not just after custody of Oliver, she's positioning for control of Blackwood Industries through him. Nathan scanned the emails, his expression darkening. She wants my company, my son. and to destroy Lily in the process. He looked up. So we remove all 3 targets at once. Back at the lake house, Lily was teaching Oliver to play chess, a game she'd learned from an old man in the park during her homeless days. The key is thinking several moves ahead, she explained, demonstrating a knight's movement. You have to anticipate what your opponent might do. Oliver concentrated on the board, like what Dad's doing now. Planning moves against Catherine? Lily nodded. Exactly like that. They were so engrossed in their game that they didn't immediately notice Mrs. Winters enter with a visitor, a young woman with honey-colored hair wearing a social worker's badge. "Children," Mrs. Winters said softly, "this is Ms. Patterson from Child Protective Services. She needs to speak with you both separately." Lily's body went rigid, her hand freezing above a chess piece. She'd had enough experience with CPS to know this wasn't a routine visit. "It's all right," Ms. Patterson said gently, noting Lily's alarm. "I just need to ask some standard questions while we review your case. My dad said no one would interview us without him or our lawyer present," Oliver stated, his chin lifting in a gesture remarkably similar to Nathan's. Ms. Patterson's smile tightened. "Your father doesn't have legal authority to make that decision for Lily, as her guardianship status is temporary. And given the allegations against him, a neutral party needs to assess your welfare." Lily and Oliver exchanged a panicked glance. This was exactly the scenario Nathan had warned might happen, an attempt to separate them while he was away. Mrs. Winters stepped forward. "I must insist you wait for Mr. Blackwood. He's due back within the hour." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Ms. Patterson replied, her friendly demeanor slipping. "I have a court order authorizing immediate removal of both children to separate protective custody pending investigation." She produced an official-looking document, which Mrs. Winters examined with mounting distress. "This can't be right," the housekeeper protested. "Mr. Stern assured us—" "Plans change," Miss Patterson interrupted smoothly. "Now, children, please pack a small bag with essentials. My colleagues are waiting outside." Oliver's face crumpled. "You're taking us away, separating us? It's temporary, Ms. Patterson assured him, though her eyes told a different story. Lily's mind raced. This had Catherine written all over it, a sudden move while Nathan was away, orchestrated through her corrupted channels. Once separated, who knew if they'd ever see each other again? "May I get my medication and special items for my prosthetic?" Oliver asked, his voice small. Miss Patterson nodded. "Of course, Mrs. Winters can help you." As they left the room, Lily made a split-second decision. "I need to use the bathroom before we go." Miss Patterson checked her watch. "Be quick." Once inside the bathroom, Lily locked the door and pulled out the emergency phone Nathan had given each of them, a simple device programmed with only his number and Mr. Stern's. With trembling fingers, she texted both. "CPS here with court order to take us now. Separating us. Woman named Patterson." Nathan was still in the hotel conference room when the messages came through. The color drained from his face as he showed the screen to Michael Stern. "This is impossible," Stern said, already dialing frantically. "No such order has been issued through legitimate channels. This is a kidnapping attempt disguised as a CPS intervention." Nathan was already racing for the door. "Call the police and Judge Harrison. I'm heading there now." Jessica followed him to the elevator. "I'm coming with you. I can live stream everything if necessary, create a public record they can't erase." At the lake house, Lily emerged from the bathroom to find Ms. Patterson checking her own phone with a frown. "Is something wrong?" Lily asked innocently. "Change of plans," Ms. Patterson said tersely. "We need to leave immediately. Where is the boy?" "Still getting his things, I think." Ms. Patterson marched toward Oliver's room, her earlier professional demeanor abandoned. Lily used the moment to slip into the kitchen, where Mrs. Winters was helping Oliver pack his medical supplies, her movements deliberately slow. "Did you call Mr. Blackwood?" Mrs. Winters whispered. Lily nodded. Use the emergency phone. Good girl. Now listen carefully, Mrs. Winters murmured, keeping her voice low. I've triggered the silent alarm. Security is on the way. But if she tries to take you before they arrive, you go to the panic room and lock yourselves in. Understand? Before Lily could respond, Miss Patterson appeared in the doorway. Enough delay. We're leaving now. She grabbed Oliver's arm roughly, making him wince. The mask had completely fallen away now. This was no social worker. Let him go, Lily demanded, stepping between them. Miss Patterson's eyes narrowed dangerously. Move aside, street rat. This doesn't concern you. In that moment, Lily saw Catherine's influence clearly. The same contempt, the same cruelty. And just like that day in the classroom, she stood her ground. If you want to take him, Lily said, her voice steady despite her racing heart, you'll have to go through me first. The standoff in the kitchen seemed to stretch into eternity. Miss Patterson's fingers dug into Oliver's arm, while Lily stood her ground, small but unyielding. Mrs. Winters had positioned herself by the pantry door, the hidden entrance to the panic room. This is absurd, Miss Patterson snapped. Move aside, or I'll have you charged with interfering with a child welfare officer. Real welfare officers don't hurt children, Lily countered, noting the red marks forming on Oliver's arm. And they bring police officers, not colleagues waiting in unmarked cars. A flicker of uncertainty crossed Miss Patterson's face. This clearly wasn't going according to her script. The security system chimed softly, indicating movement at the property gate. Miss Patterson's head jerked toward the sound. What's that? Probably just a delivery, Mrs. Winters said smoothly. We're expecting medical supplies for Oliver. Miss Patterson's grip on Oliver loosened slightly as she reached for her phone with her free hand. The momentary distraction was all Lily needed. Now, Oliver, she shouted. Oliver twisted suddenly, breaking free and lunging toward Mrs. Winters, who pulled him behind her toward the pantry. Lily darted after them, but Miss Patterson was faster than expected, grabbing Lily's backpack and yanking her backward. You're not going anywhere, she hissed, her professional facade completely shattered. Lily struggled, hearing the pantry door slam shut as Mrs. Winters and Oliver made it to safety. Good, at least he was protected. Outside, tires crunched on gravel as vehicles approached the house. Ms. Patterson dragged Lily toward the front door, but stopped abruptly at the sight through the window. Not the backup she was expecting, but Nathan's Bentley screeching to a halt, followed by police cars with lights flashing. It's over, Lily said, ceasing her struggle. Whatever Catherine paid you, it wasn't enough. Ms. Patterson's face contorted with rage. She shoved Lily aside and bolted for the back door. Nathan burst through the front entrance, his face a mask of controlled fury. Lily, where's Oliver? Panic room with Mrs. Winters, Lily gasped, pointing toward the kitchen. They're safe. The fake social worker ran out back. Police officers streamed past them in pursuit, while Nathan pulled Lily into a fierce embrace. Are you hurt? She shook her head against his chest, suddenly overcome by delayed shock. She was going to take us, separate us. Never, Nathan vowed, his voice thick with emotion. I will never let that happen. Within minutes, Mrs. Winters and Oliver emerged from the panic room. Oliver launched himself at his father and sister, creating a three-way hug in the middle of the chaos as police radios crackled with reports of Ms. Patterson's capture at the property line. Jessica Chen hung back, documenting everything on her phone. Mr. Blackwood, she called. They've apprehended someone else too. A man waiting in a car at the service entrance. He had fake documents and sedatives in his possession. The implications sent a chill through the room. This hadn't been just an attempt to separate the children. It had been a calculated abduction. Hours later, after police statements and medical checks, the family sat in the Lake House living room with Michael Stern and Jessica Chen, processing the day's events. The woman's real name is Patricia Dawson, Stern reported, reading from his tablet. Former Child Services employee fired for falsifying reports. The man was ex-military, working as a private contractor. And their connection to Catherine? Nathan asked, his arm protectively around both children on the sofa. No direct link yet, Jessica replied. But they were paid through one of the offshore accounts Martin Greaves established. Police are bringing him in for questioning now. Oliver leaned against Nathan's shoulder, exhausted by the day's trauma. Does this mean we're safe now? Can we go home? Not yet, Nathan admitted, but we've gained significant leverage. Attempted kidnapping charges will force Judge Harrison to review our case immediately, and with Martin in custody, Catherine's financial pipeline is cut off. Lily had been uncharacteristically quiet. Now she looked up at Nathan with eyes too old for her 7 years. She won't stop, will she? Not until she gets what she wants. Nathan met her gaze with equal seriousness. No, she won't, but neither will we. Later that night, as the children finally slept under the watchful eyes of private security, Nathan sat with Jessica on the deck. I want to thank you, he said quietly. Your integrity as a journalist literally saved my children today. Jessica closed her laptop. This story stopped being about journalism the moment I realized children were in danger. She hesitated. There's something else you should know. My sources tell me Catherine has one final play, something she calls her nuclear option. Any idea what it is? Nothing concrete. But whatever it is, she's saving it for the emergency hearing on Tuesday. Jessica gathered her things. Whatever happens, make sure those kids stay together. I've never seen a bond form so quickly between two children who aren't blood relatives. Nathan gazed through the window at the bedroom where Lily and Oliver slept in adjoining beds, their hands stretched toward each other, even in sleep. Blood has nothing to do with it, he said softly. They chose each other. And that's a bond Catherine will never understand. As Jessica drove away, her phone pinged with a message from an unknown number. The text contained a single image, a photograph of Nathan from 15 years ago, standing next to a woman whose face had been deliberately blurred, holding an infant. The caption read, "Ask him about the child he abandoned. Tuesday, 9 a.m. Be there." The Blackwood estate felt different upon their return, less like a sanctuary and more like a fortress. Nathan had enhanced security protocols, added personnel, and installed new surveillance systems throughout the property. Yet, despite these precautions, a persistent unease lingered, especially for Lily. What if Catherine tries something else? She asked Nathan as they settled back into the mansion the night before the hearing. Something worse than last time. Nathan knelt to her level, as he always did when speaking about serious matters. That's why we've prepared for every possibility. Tomorrow's hearing will end this, one way or another. Promise. Lily's voice was small. I promise to fight with everything I have, Nathan replied carefully. And I promise that no matter what happens in that courtroom, you and Oliver will always be family. Upstairs, Oliver was arranging his collection of robot figurines. A hobby he'd developed since Lily's arrival had given him the confidence to pursue interests beyond his father's expectations. Mrs. Winters watched from the doorway with a gentle smile. Your father says we need to be ready by 7 tomorrow morning, she reminded him. The hearing is at 9. Oliver nodded solemnly. I've already picked out my suit, the blue one Dad got me for my birthday. Very appropriate, Mrs. Winters approved. You'll look very grown up. I have to be, Oliver said with unexpected gravity. For Lily. She's always strong for me, so tomorrow I need to be strong for her. The morning arrived with a sense of momentous occasion. The children ate breakfast in silence, both dressed in their best clothes. Oliver in his navy suit, Lily in a simple but elegant emerald dress that brought out the green in her eyes. Nathan appeared in the doorway, impeccable in a charcoal suit, his expression resolute. It's time. Why, the courthouse was buzzing with unusual activity for an emergency family court hearing. News of the attempted abduction had leaked to the press, and journalists clustered on the steps, their cameras tracking the Blackwood family as they entered through a side entrance. Inside, Michael Stern waited with their legal team. "Judge Harrison will be presiding instead of Keller," he informed them quietly. "That's our first victory. Keller recused himself after the FBI began investigating his financial connections to Greaves." Nathan nodded, his eyes scanning the hallway for any sign of Catherine. "And the nuclear option Jessica mentioned?" "Still unknown," Stern admitted, "but Catherine's new attorney has submitted a sealed document to the court. We'll find out soon enough." As they entered the courtroom, Lily's hand tightened around Oliver's. The room was smaller than she'd expected, with polished wood panels and the heavy atmosphere of consequential decisions. Judge Harrison, a dignified woman in her 60s, sat at the bench reviewing documents. Catherine Reynolds sat at the plaintiff's table, elegant in cream-colored silk, her golden hair arranged in a sophisticated chignon. Beside her sat a sharp-featured attorney in an expensive suit. She didn't look at Nathan or the children as they took their seats. "All rise," the bailiff announced. "The Honorable Judge Elaine Harrison presiding in the matter of Reynolds v. Blackwood regarding custody of minor child Oliver Blackwood." The formalities proceeded with legal precision until Judge Harrison addressed the courtroom directly. "Before we begin, I want to acknowledge the unusual circumstances that bring us here today, including the serious criminal allegations regarding an attempted removal of both children from Mr. Blackwood's custody yesterday. Those matters are being handled separately by law enforcement." She turned to Catherine. "Ms. Reynolds, you've petitioned for sole custody of Oliver Blackwood on grounds that Mr. Blackwood is an unfit parent. Given recent events, do you wish to proceed with these claims?" Catherine's attorney rose. "We do, Your Honor. In fact, recent events only strengthen our position that Mr. Blackwood's home is dangerous for Oliver." Judge Harrison's expression remained neutral. "Very well, and I understand you've submitted a sealed document for the court's consideration?" "Yes, Your Honor. We believe its contents are relevant to these proceedings, but potentially harmful to the children if made public." Nathan tensed, exchanging a glance with Stern. This was it, the nuclear option. Judge Harrison studied the document for several long moments, her expression inscrutable. Finally, she looked up. "Mr. Blackwood, are you familiar with the name Elena Vasquez?" A visible shock passed through Nathan's body. Lily felt Oliver stiffen beside her. "I am, Your Honor," Nathan replied, his voice controlled but strained. "And would you confirm for the court your prior relationship with Ms. Vasquez?" Nathan's hands clenched on the table. "Elena Vasquez and I were engaged 15 years ago. She ended our relationship suddenly and disappeared from San Francisco. I spent 2 years searching for her before finally accepting she didn't want to be found." Judge Harrison nodded. "Ms. Reynolds is claiming that Elena Vasquez left because she was pregnant with your child, and that you refused to acknowledge paternity or provide support." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Lily looked at Oliver, whose face had gone pale. "That is categorically false, Your Honor," Nathan stated firmly. "I had no knowledge of any pregnancy. Had I known Elena was carrying my child, I would never have stopped looking for her." Catherine's attorney stood again. "We have sworn testimony from Elena Vasquez's cousin stating that Mr. Blackwood was informed of the pregnancy and refused all responsibility, forcing Ms. Vasquez to flee and raise the child alone in poverty." "A convenient claim," Michael Stern interjected, "when Ms. Vasquez herself is not present to confirm or deny it." Judge Harrison raised her hand for silence. "Where is Elena Vasquez now?" Catherine's attorney's smile was almost predatory. "That's the most relevant point, Your Honor. Elena Vasquez died 6 months ago in a car accident in Arizona, and her 7-year-old daughter Liliana Vasquez disappeared from foster care shortly thereafter. All eyes in the courtroom turned to Lily, whose world seemed to collapse around her as Catherine's attorney continued mercilessly. "We believe Mr. Blackwood located his biological daughter and removed her from state custody illegally, creating the fiction of a homeless girl to conceal her true identity and his abandonment of her mother." The courtroom erupted in chaos as Nathan surged to his feet, his face flushed with anger. "This is an outrageous fabrication." Amidst the tumult, only Lily remained perfectly still, her mind racing with impossible calculations. Could it be true? Was Nathan actually her biological father? Had her entire life been a lie? Judge Harrison banged her gavel repeatedly. "Order! I will have order in this court." As the room gradually quieted, she fixed Catherine with a penetrating stare. "Ms. Reynolds, these are extraordinarily serious allegations. Do you have DNA evidence to support this claim?" "Not yet, Your Honor," Catherine's attorney admitted. "But we're petitioning the court to order testing immediately." Judge Harrison turned to Nathan. "Mr. Blackwood, given the gravity of these allegations, would you voluntarily submit to DNA testing to establish whether you are Lily's biological father?" The entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his answer. Nathan looked at Lily, their eyes meeting in a moment of perfect, painful clarity. "Yes, Your Honor," he said quietly. "I have nothing to hide." As the judge called a 1-hour recess for preliminary testing to be arranged, Jessica Chen slipped out of the courtroom, her journalistic instincts on fire. Something about Catherine's smug confidence felt wrong. If Nathan truly was Lily's father, why would Catherine use that as ammunition against him? It would only strengthen his case for keeping both children together. Unless Catherine was counting on the test coming back negative. But why? Jessica pulled out her phone and dialed a contact at the Arizona Department of Child Services. "I need everything you have on a child named Liliana Vasquez," she said urgently. "Her mother was Elena Vasquez, died in a car accident 6 months ago." The answer that came back 10 minutes later would change everything. The sterile medical office adjacent to the courthouse hummed with tension. Nathan sat on one examination table while Lily perched nervously on another, both waiting as the technician prepared the DNA testing kits. Oliver remained with Mrs. Winters in a separate room, despite his protests about being excluded. "This won't hurt," the technician assured Lily, approaching with a swab. "I just need to brush this inside your cheek." Lily complied silently, her eyes fixed on Nathan, searching for what? Fear, guilt, some sign that he had known all along. But his face revealed only concern for her. When the technician stepped out to process the samples, Nathan finally broke the silence. "Lily, I want you to know something." His voice was steady, but gentle. "I never knew Elena was pregnant. I would never have abandoned my child." "You don't know if I'm really your daughter," Lily pointed out. "That's not what I meant." Nathan moved to sit beside her. "Whether the test is positive or negative doesn't change anything about how I feel. You're part of our family now, DNA or no DNA." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "But if it's negative, Catherine wins. She'll say you kidnapped me for what? What reason would you have to take a random homeless girl?" "The truth is reason enough. I took you in because you were brave and alone, and Oliver needed you. We both did." Before Lily could respond, the door opened and Jessica Chen slipped inside, her expression urgent. "I need to speak with you both immediately," she said, checking to ensure they were alone. "There's something very wrong about Catherine's story." Nathan straightened. "What did you find?" Jessica pulled out her phone, showing them a document. "I contacted Arizona Child Services. There was an Elena Vasquez who died in a car accident 6 months ago, and she did have a daughter named Liliana." Lily felt her heart constrict. Could it be true after all? "But," Jessica continued, "Liliana Vasquez was not 7 years old. She was 15, and she wasn't in foster care. She's living with her maternal grandmother in Phoenix." Nathan's brow furrowed. So Catherine's entire claim is fabricated, but why would she risk such an obvious lie? Because she doesn't expect the DNA test to come back today, Jessica explained. She's playing for time, creating enough doubt to delay the custody decision while she pursues other angles. And there's more. The judge has a sealed juvenile record for Lily, allegedly from Arizona, claiming a history of violent behavior. That's impossible, Lily protested. I've never even been to Arizona. Exactly, but disproving it takes time. Time during which Catherine could move for temporary custody of Oliver based on potential danger to him. Jessica looked at them gravely. Catherine has someone working for her inside the court. The technician processing your DNA test is in her pocket. Nathan's face hardened. So the test results will say whatever Catherine wants them to say. Unless we act quickly, Jessica agreed. Back in the courtroom, Judge Harrison had just called the session back to order when Nathan's legal team requested an immediate sidebar. Michael Stern approached the bench with a flash drive. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Reynolds has perpetrated a fraud upon this court, he stated firmly. These documents from Arizona authorities confirm that Liliana Vasquez is not 7 years old but 15 and currently residing with her grandmother. Judge Harrison's expression darkened as she reviewed the evidence. Ms. Reynolds approached the bench. Catherine rose with practiced elegance, her attorney at her side. Would you care to explain, Judge Harrison asked coldly, why you've presented falsified information to this court? Catherine's composure never wavered. Your Honor, I presented information provided to me by a private investigator. If it's incorrect, I was misled as well. A remarkable coincidence, the judge observed, that you were misled with information so precisely designed to disrupt these proceedings. Before Catherine could respond, the courtroom doors burst open. FBI agents entered, led by a stern-faced woman who approached the bench. Your Honor, I'm Special Agent Monica Taylor. We have a warrant for the arrest of Catherine Reynolds and her attorney on charges of conspiracy, evidence tampering, attempted kidnapping, and witness intimidation. Catherine's perfect mask finally cracked. This is absurd. Nathan, what have you done? Nathan didn't answer. His attention was fixed on Lily, who stood watching the scene unfold with Oliver at her side, their hands linked tightly together. As Catherine was led away in handcuffs, her final venomous glare was directed not at Nathan, but at Lily, the child who had unwittingly become the catalyst for her downfall. All charges against you have been dropped, Mr. Blackwood, Agent Taylor confirmed 3 days later, sitting across from Nathan in his home office. Our investigation into Catherine Reynolds and her network is ongoing, but the evidence is substantial. Nathan nodded, the relief evident in his face despite his exhaustion. And Martin Greaves, cooperating fully in exchange for leniency. He claims Catherine blackmailed him initially, though he admits to continuing the embezzlement willingly once involved. Agent Taylor closed her notebook. We've also identified the court clerk who was falsifying Lily's records. The entire operation was surprisingly extensive. Not surprising to me, Nathan said grimly. Catherine has always been methodical. After Agent Taylor departed, Nathan found the children in the garden. Fall had arrived in earnest, painting the estate grounds in brilliant oranges and reds. Oliver was showing Lily how to fly the new kite Nathan had bought him, a dragon with a 6-foot wingspan. Higher, higher! Oliver called, laughing as the wind caught the kite and sent it soaring. Lily manipulated the strings with natural skill, her face tilted up toward the sky. Nathan paused to watch them, struck by how different they both looked from that first day in the classroom just 4 months ago. Oliver stood confidently on his prosthetic leg, and Lily had lost the wary, hunted look that had once shadowed her eyes. "Dad!" Oliver spotted him and waved enthusiastically. "Look how high Lily got the kite." Nathan joined them, accepting the control strings when Lily offered them. "You're a natural," he told her. "Where did you learn to fly kites?" "I've never flown one before," Lily admitted, "but I watched a man teaching his son in the park once. I remembered how he moved his hands." These small revelations about her past still came occasionally, each one a reminder of everything she'd observed from the outside looking in. Now she was finally on the inside of a family, though the official adoption was still working its way through the system. That evening, Nathan called a family meeting in the living room. He sat facing the children, his expression serious but warm. "I wanted to update you both on what's happening with Catherine," he began. "The FBI has frozen her assets while they investigate, and she's currently being held without bail due to the kidnapping charges." Oliver nodded solemnly. "So she can't hurt us anymore?" "She can't reach us anymore," Nathan corrected gently. "But I won't lie to you. The legal process will take time, and it may not be easy. There will be hearings where they might ask you both to speak about what happened." Lily's brow furrowed. "Will we have to see her in court?" "Not if I can help it," Nathan assured her. "My lawyers are working to arrange video testimony for you both, so you won't have to be in the same room with her." He hesitated before continuing. "There's something else we need to discuss. With Catherine's schemes exposed, we need to decide about school. You've both been studying with tutors here at home for the past month, but I'm wondering if you'd like to return to Westridge Academy." Oliver perked up. "Could we? I miss my friends. And Zoe's been asking about Lily." Lily looked less certain. "What if people ask questions about everything that happened?" Nathan considered this. "That's a valid concern. The media coverage has been extensive, but children often care less about these things than we expect." He smiled. "And from what I hear, you've made quite an impression on Zoe Mitchell." "She did stand up for me in court," Lily acknowledged, a small smile playing at her lips. "Tell you what," Nathan proposed. "Why don't we invite Zoe for a visit this weekend? See how that goes before making any decisions about returning to school." The children agreed enthusiastically, and as they raced upstairs to call Zoe, Nathan found himself alone with his thoughts. The past 4 months had transformed all their lives in ways he could never have predicted that morning in the classroom. His phone buzzed with a text from Jessica Chen. "Story running tomorrow, final review attached. Let me know if you want any changes." The article Jessica had written told their story with sensitivity and depth, not as a scandal about a billionaire and his ex-wife, but as a narrative about found family and children's resilience. She'd kept her promise to protect the children's privacy while still exposing Catherine's crimes. As Nathan read the draft, one line stood out. "Sometimes family is born not of biology, but of a moment of courage, like when a homeless 7-year-old girl stands up to protect a boy she's never met." He couldn't have said it better himself. The first winter snow transformed the Blackwood estate into a wonderland of white. 6 months had passed since Catherine's arrest, and life had settled into new rhythms for the expanding family. "Dad! Dad! It's sticking to the ground!" Oliver's excited voice echoed through the hallway as he pressed his face against the breakfast room windows. His 9th birthday was approaching in February, and with each passing month, Nathan saw more confidence blossoming in his son. "Perfect weather for our weekend plans," Nathan replied, sipping his coffee. He glanced at Lily, who was systematically working her way through a stack of pancakes. "Are you excited about the mountains, Lily?" She nodded, her mouth too full to speak properly. Swallowing quickly, she asked, "Will there be enough snow for sledding?" "The resort got 8 inches yesterday, with more expected tonight. There'll be plenty for sledding, skiing, and building snow forts." The weekend getaway to Nathan's mountain lodge was a celebration of multiple milestones. Catherine's criminal trial was set to begin the following month, but a plea deal seemed increasingly likely as her former accomplices testified against her. More importantly, Lily's adoption had finally been approved by the court, making her officially Lily Blackwood. Oliver had taken to calling her his sister almost immediately after their first meeting, but now the law recognized what their hearts had known all along. They were family. "Can I go pack my snow gear?" Oliver asked, practically vibrating with excitement. Nathan laughed. "We're not leaving until tomorrow morning, but yes, you can start packing." As Oliver raced upstairs, Nathan noticed Lily had grown quiet, pushing the remaining pancake pieces around her plate. "Everything okay?" he asked gently. Lily set down her fork. "I was just thinking. It's been almost exactly a year since my last foster home, before I ran away." Nathan waited, giving her space to continue if she wished. Lily rarely spoke about her time before their meeting, and he never pushed. "They were going to separate me from my foster brother," she finally continued. "He was the only one who was nice to me there. They said we were too attached, and it wasn't healthy." Her fingers made air quotes around the words. "That's why I left. And then I was on the streets for almost 3 months before the classroom." Nathan reached across the table to cover her small hand with his. "I'm grateful every day that you found your way to us, Lily." She smiled, the shadow passing from her eyes. "Me too." The mountain lodge was everything Lily had imagined and more. A massive timber structure nestled among snow-laden pines, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a valley of untouched white. Oliver had brought his friend Zoe along for the weekend, with her parents' permission. The two children had become inseparable at school, united by their shared experience standing up to Catherine. "This place is epic," Zoe declared as they explored the lodge. "Do you have a hot tub? Please say you have a hot tub." "On the back deck," Oliver confirmed proudly, "and an indoor pool in the basement." Lily trailed behind them, still sometimes overwhelmed by such casual displays of wealth. Despite 9 months living as a Blackwood, part of her remained the cautious girl who had once counted pennies for a loaf of bread. That afternoon, Nathan took them sledding on a gentle slope behind the lodge. Lily's initial hesitation vanished after her first exhilarating run down the hill, her laughter floating through the crisp mountain air as she flopped backward into a snowbank. "Again!" she demanded, already dragging her sled back toward the top. Later, as darkness fell and the temperature dropped, they gathered in the lodge's great room. A massive stone fireplace crackled with warmth while the children roasted marshmallows for s'mores. "Best day ever," Oliver declared, chocolate smeared across his chin. Zoe nodded in emphatic agreement. "Way better than my family's trip to Disney." "Really?" Lily asked, surprised. She'd never been to Disney, but had always imagined it as the pinnacle of childhood experiences. "Totally," Zoe confirmed. "Disney has too many rules. Here we can just have fun." Nathan watched their interaction with quiet contentment. This was what he'd always wanted for Oliver, normal childhood friendships and simple joys. And now Lily was experiencing them too, after years of deprivation. His phone vibrated in his pocket. Stepping away from the children, he checked the screen to find a message from Michael Stern. "Catherine's attorneys reached out. She's willing to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence." A mixture of relief and lingering anger washed over Nathan. He typed back, "What's the proposed sentence?" The response came quickly. "Minimum 10 years, no parole for at least 7. It was less than she deserved, but it would spare the children from testifying. Nathan's finger hovered over the keyboard as he glanced back at the 3 youngsters, now engaged in an animated marshmallow throwing contest. "Accept the deal," he typed. "It's time to close this chapter." Spring brought renewal to the Blackwood estate and family. Catherine's sentencing in February had marked the end of a difficult chapter, allowing them all to focus on the future without looking over their shoulders. Nathan had restructured Blackwood Industries in the wake of the scandal, promoting honest employees and implementing stricter financial controls. More importantly, He'd adjusted his work schedule to be home by 6 most evenings, in time for family dinner. One such evening in late April found them in the garden, enjoying an unseasonably warm twilight. Nathan was grilling steaks while the children played an elaborate game of their own invention involving the garden statues and a complex set of rules only they understood. "Dad, tell Lily the fountain fairy can't resurrect garden knights once they've been turned to stone," Oliver called, his prosthetic leg gleaming with new adjustments that allowed greater flexibility. "I'm staying out of this one," Nathan laughed, flipping a steak. "You two negotiate your own peace treaty." Mrs. Winters emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of lemonade. "Mail came late today," she announced, handing Nathan a thick envelope. "This one's marked urgent from the adoption agency." Nathan set down his grilling tools to examine the envelope. "That's strange. Lily's adoption was finalized months ago." He opened it carefully, scanning the contents with growing confusion that quickly turned to shock. "Children," he called, his voice carefully controlled. "Come here for a moment, please." Something in his tone brought them running immediately. "What's wrong?" Lily asked, instantly alert to the tension in his face. "Nothing's wrong," Nathan assured her quickly, "but I've received some unexpected information." He knelt to their level, the papers clutched in his hand. "Lily, when the adoption agency was processing your file, they ran your DNA through the national database, which is standard procedure." Lily nodded cautiously. "I remember the test. They were looking for potential biological relatives," Nathan continued, "but nothing came up at the time. However, it seems they've now found a match." The color drained from Lily's face. "Someone related to me? Who?" Nathan took a deep breath. "You have a brother, Lily. A biological half-brother who's been searching for you." The words hung in the air, incomprehensible at first. Oliver grabbed Lily's hand instinctively, as if afraid she might be snatched away by this news. "That's not possible," Lily whispered. "My mother never mentioned a brother. According to these records, you have different fathers. Your brother is 22 years old. His name is James Sullivan, and he's been looking for you since your mother's death." "Where is he?" Lily asked, her voice small. "He lives in Boston," Nathan replied. "He's a graduate student at MIT. Oliver's grip on Lily's hand tightened. Is he going to take Lily away?" The question voiced all their fears. Nathan was quick to reassure them both. "No, absolutely not. The adoption is final and legally binding. You're a Blackwood now, Lily, but—" He hesitated. "James has requested a meeting. He wants to know his sister." Lily sank onto a garden bench, her young mind struggling to process this revelation. A brother, someone who shared her blood, her history, someone who might have answers about her mother, about the life she barely remembered before the foster system. "What does he look like?" she finally asked. Nathan handed her a photograph from the file. A young man with Lily's same green eyes smiled at the camera, his dark hair a contrast to Lily's lighter brown, but the shape of their faces unmistakably similar. "He wrote you a letter as well," Nathan said, offering a sealed envelope. Lily took it with trembling fingers but didn't open it. "I need time," she said quietly. "Of course," Nathan agreed. "This is a lot to take in. There's no rush to decide anything." Later that night, after Oliver had finally fallen asleep following hours of anxious questions, Nathan found Lily sitting on the window seat in her room, the unopened letter in her lap. "May I?" he asked, gesturing to the space beside her. She nodded, moving over to make room. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes before Lily spoke. "I'm afraid to open it," she admitted. "Why? What if he's wonderful? What if he wants to be part of my life, and then disappears like everyone else did before you and Oliver?" Nathan chose his words carefully. "I can't promise that won't happen, Lily. People do sometimes disappoint us, but I can promise that Oliver and I will always be here, no matter what you decide about James." Lily leaned against Nathan's shoulder. "Would you read it with me?" "I'd be honored," he said softly. Together, they broke the seal on a letter that would open yet another chapter in their extraordinary journey as a family. The Boston Public Garden was alive with spring blossoms as Lily sat rigidly on the park bench, her small hand clutched in Nathan's larger one. Oliver sat on her other side, the three of them a united front awaiting the arrival of James Sullivan. "He's late," Oliver observed, checking Nathan's watch for the third time in 5 minutes. "Only by 2 minutes," Nathan reminded him gently. "Traffic in Boston can be unpredictable." Lily said nothing, her eyes fixed on the pathway where James had suggested they meet. After 2 months of exchanged letters, phone calls and video chats, this moment, their first in-person meeting, carried enormous weight. "There!" Oliver suddenly pointed toward a young man walking briskly along the path. "That's him from the pictures, right?" James Sullivan moved with purpose, his lanky frame dressed in casual jeans and a button-down shirt. As he drew closer, the family resemblance became unmistakable. He had Lily's same determined chin and expressive eyes. Lily stood as he approached, her body tense. James slowed his pace, stopping a respectful distance away, his expression a mixture of nervousness and wonder. "Lily," he said simply, his voice catching slightly. "James," she replied with equal gravity. For a moment, neither moved. Then, with a sudden decisiveness that reminded Nathan powerfully of the day she'd stepped between Oliver and Catherine, Lily closed the distance and extended her hand formally. James looked momentarily surprised, then shook her hand with appropriate seriousness, recognizing her need to control this first interaction. "It's really good to finally meet you in person." "These are my family," Lily said, gesturing behind her. "My brother Oliver and my father Nathan." Nathan noted her deliberate use of those titles, staking her claim to her chosen family even as she met her biological one. "Thank you all for coming," James said, shaking hands with Nathan and Oliver. "I know this is complicated." "Why don't we walk?" Nathan suggested, sensing the children's nervous energy. "The gardens are beautiful this time of year." As they strolled along the pathways, James gradually shared his story with Lily. Their mother had given him up for adoption at birth, unable to care for a child at 17. He'd been raised by loving adoptive parents, but had always known he was adopted. "When I turned 18, I started searching for her," he explained. "By the time I found her, she'd had you and was struggling. She didn't want to meet me. I think she felt ashamed about giving me up." Lily absorbed this information silently. These were pieces of her mother she'd never known. "After the accident," James continued, "I learned she'd had another child. But by then, you'd disappeared from the foster system. It took me almost a year to track you down through the adoption registry." "Why did you want to find me?" Lily asked suddenly. "You didn't even know me." James stopped walking, turning to face her directly. "Because you're my sister. Because we're connected by something no one can take away, and because I thought maybe you needed someone who remembered her, who could tell you about her when you're ready to hear it." The simple honesty of his answer resonated with Lily. "I don't remember her very well," she admitted, "just fragments." "She had a beautiful laugh," James offered, "and she could draw amazing pictures. That's one reason I recognized you in the adoption photo. You looked just like her sketches of herself as a child." Oliver, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. "Do you like robots?" "I collect robot figures, and I'm learning to build simple ones." James grinned. "I actually work in the robotics lab at MIT. That's part of my graduate program." Oliver's eyes widened with excitement. "Really? Could I see it sometime?" "If it's all right with your dad," James agreed, looking to Nathan for approval. The ice broken. They spent the afternoon getting to know one another. James was careful never to overstep, treating Lily's Blackwood family with genuine respect while establishing his own tentative connection with his half-sister. As the day drew to a close, James pulled a small package from his backpack. "I brought something for you, Lily. Only if you want it, though." Lily opened it carefully to find a leather-bound sketchbook. Inside were dozens of drawings, their mother's artwork preserved and protected. "I thought you might like to have these," James said softly, "to know that part of her." Tears filled Lily's eyes as she traced her fingers over a sketch of a small girl feeding ducks, a girl who looked remarkably like herself. "Thank you," she whispered. Later, as they prepared to return to their hotel, James approached Nathan while the children were distracted by a street performer. "I want to be clear about something, Mr. Blackwood," he said earnestly. "I'm not here to disrupt Lily's life or challenge your family in any way. I just want to be part of her life in whatever way she's comfortable with." Nathan studied the young man thoughtfully. "I believe you. And please, call me Nathan." "I grew up with amazing adoptive parents," James continued. "I know biology isn't what makes a family. What you've done for Lily, that's what matters." Nathan extended his hand. "I think we can find a way forward that works for everyone, James, especially Lily." As they said their goodbyes, promising future visits and continued communication, Nathan watched Lily carefully tucking the sketchbook into her backpack, handling it like the treasure it was. Family, he reflected, came in many forms, and theirs had just grown a little larger. "Happy birthday, Lily!" The chorus of voices rang through the Blackwood mansion's decorated dining room as Lily blew out the 8 candles on her elaborate cake. 1 year had passed since she'd first stepped into that fateful classroom, a year that had transformed all their lives. Nathan watched with pride as his daughter, officially and emotionally his daughter now, beamed at the small gathering of her friends. Zoe was there, of course, along with 3 other girls from Westridge Academy who had become part of Lily's growing social circle. Oliver hovered nearby with 2 of his own friends, eager for cake, but patiently allowing Lily her moment in the spotlight. James Sullivan had flown in from Boston for the occasion, bringing his fiancée Amanda to meet Lily for the first time. They stood slightly apart from the others, still finding their place in this complex family dynamic, but undeniably part of the celebration. "Make a wish," Oliver called as Lily took a deep breath. Lily closed her eyes briefly before blowing out all 8 candles in one determined breath, prompting applause from the assembled guests. "What did you wish for?" Zoe asked immediately. "She can't tell or it won't come true," Oliver objected with the authority of an older brother. Lily just smiled, exchanging a knowing look with Nathan. They both understood that her greatest wish had already come true. She belonged. As Mrs. Winters began cutting the cake, Nathan's phone vibrated in his pocket. He stepped into the hallway to check it, finding a message from Michael Stern. "Catherine's final appeal denied. Thought you'd want to know." Nathan exhaled slowly. The legal battles had continued longer than expected, with Catherine employing every delay tactic possible. This final ruling meant true closure at last. "Everything okay?" James had followed him into the hallway, his perceptiveness reminiscent of Lily's. "Yes," Nathan assured him. "Just some old business finally concluded." James nodded, understanding without requiring details. "Amanda loves Lily," he offered instead. "She's been nervous about meeting her, wanted to make a good impression." "From what I can see, she's succeeding," Nathan replied, glancing back into the dining room where Amanda was helping Lily open a gift. "They seem to be getting along well." "Amanda's a children's librarian," James explained. "She brought Lily first editions of all her favorite books." The thoughtfulness of the gift impressed Nathan. It showed that James had been paying attention to Lily's interests during their monthly visits and regular video calls. Those relationships had evolved gradually over the past year, finding a comfortable rhythm that complemented rather than competed with Lily's place in the Blackwood family. When they returned to the party, Oliver was enthusiastically demonstrating his newest prosthetic leg, a custom design with programmable LED lights along the side that could display different patterns. "Dad helped design it," he explained proudly to his captivated audience, "and I helped code the light sequences." Nathan felt a surge of gratitude watching his son. Oliver's transformation had been as remarkable as Lily's. From a timid boy afraid of drawing attention to his prosthetic, he had become confident enough to make it a conversation piece, even a point of pride. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to depart, Lily found Nathan in a quiet corner of the garden, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. "Thank you for my party," she said, leaning comfortably against his side. "It was perfect." "You're very welcome," he replied, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Did you have a good birthday?" She nodded contentedly. "The best. I've never had a real birthday party before." The simple statement caught at Nathan's heart, as Lily's matter-of-fact references to her previous life often did. "Well, you'll have many more," he promised, "one for every year." "Dad?" Lily's voice held a note of hesitation. "I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "I want to start a foundation for kids like I was, homeless or in bad foster homes. Could you help me?" Nathan studied his daughter's earnest face. At 8 years old, most children would be thinking about toys or games, not philanthropic endeavors, but Lily had never been like most children. "I think that's a wonderful idea," he said. "What sort of foundation did you have in mind?" "One that helps kids find families who really want them, and that makes sure they're safe while they wait." Her green eyes were intense with purpose. "No kid should have to sleep under bridges or be scared all the time." Nathan nodded solemnly, acknowledging both the merit of her idea and the painful experiences that had inspired it. "We can start planning it right away if you'd like. Perhaps we could involve James as well. His perspective might be valuable." Lily brightened. "Yes, and maybe we could call it the Bridge Foundation, because it helps kids get from bad places to good ones." The symbolism wasn't lost on Nathan. Bridges had featured prominently in Lily's early life, as shelter, as transition points, as passages from one reality to another. As they walked back toward the house where Oliver was enthusiastically showing James his robot collection, Nathan marveled at how life's most difficult moments could lead to its greatest gifts. From Catherine's cruelty had come this extraordinary family, different from anything he had imagined for himself, but more rewarding than he could have dreamed. And at its center was this remarkable child who had walked into a classroom 1 year ago and changed everything with a single act of courage. The charity gala for the newly established Bridge Foundation transformed the grand ballroom of Boston's historic Fairmont Hotel into a glittering showcase of philanthropy and hope. 2 years after Lily's impromptu suggestion, her vision had become reality, a foundation dedicated to improving outcomes for children in the foster system and those experiencing homelessness. "I'm so nervous," Lily confessed, fidgeting with the silver bracelet on her wrist as she peered from behind the stage curtain at the assembled crowd of donors, social workers, and media representatives. At 10 years old, she had grown taller and more poised, though moments of vulnerability still surfaced. "You'll be amazing," Nathan assured her, adjusting his bow tie. "Just speak from your heart like we practiced." Oliver appeared beside them in his first formal suit, looking remarkably grown up at 11. His latest prosthetic leg was barely noticeable beneath his tailored pants, a sleek, advanced design that had been featured in several medical journals. "There are at least 300 people out there," he reported with a mixture of awe and excitement. "And I saw the governor arrive." Nathan smiled at his children's contrasting reactions to the evening. Oliver thrived in social situations now, while Lily still preferred smaller gatherings. Yet it had been her passionate advocacy that had brought them to this moment. The foundation had begun modestly, with Lily insisting on donating half of her own allowance to the cause. Nathan had matched her contributions thousandfold, of course, but had honored her desire to be genuinely involved rather than just a figurehead. For the past year, she had accompanied him to meetings with social service agencies, participated in design sessions for emergency housing initiatives, and helped interview staff. 5 minutes until showtime, announced the event coordinator, clipboard in hand. Mr. Blackwood, you'll open with remarks, then introduce Lily. James appeared from the side entrance, elegant in his tuxedo, with Amanda on his arm in a flowing emerald gown. In the 2 years since entering their lives, James had become an integral part of the extended family, completing his PhD at MIT, becoming engaged to Amanda, and actively supporting Lily's foundation work. "Ready for your big moment, Firefly?" he asked, using the nickname he'd given Lily for her ability to bring light to dark situations. Lily gave him a nervous smile. "I think so." "You've got this," Amanda encouraged, adjusting a loose strand of Lily's hair. "Just remember all those kids who will be helped because of what you started." The reminder centered Lily, as it always did. Her personal experiences had given her a mission that transcended normal childhood concerns. While her friends at Westridge collected stuffed animals or obsessed over pop stars, Lily channeled her energy into ensuring other children wouldn't endure what she had. When Nathan finally took the stage to thunderous applause, he spoke briefly about the Foundation's mission and early successes. The emergency shelter opened in Chicago, the specialized training program for foster parents of children with trauma histories, the educational advocacy initiative. But the true heart and soul of the Bridge Foundation, he concluded, is not its programs or its funding. It's the vision of a remarkable young person who experienced these challenges firsthand and decided to transform her pain into purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm incredibly proud to introduce my daughter, Lily Blackwood. The audience applauded politely as Lily walked to the podium, her emerald dress matching her eyes. A step stool allowed her to reach the microphone comfortably. She took a deep breath, scanning the crowd until she found Oliver's encouraging smile in the front row. "Thank you all for coming tonight," she began, her voice clear despite her nerves. 3 years ago, I was a homeless 7-year-old sleeping under bridges and in abandoned buildings. I was hungry, scared, and alone. I thought that was going to be my whole life. A hush fell over the ballroom as she continued. Then one day, I walked into a classroom and saw another child being bullied because he had one leg. I decided to stand up for him, even though I was scared. That single moment changed everything. It gave me a brother, a father, and eventually a whole new life. Lily gestured toward Oliver and Nathan. Not every child gets that lucky moment. Not every child finds their family by accident. The Bridge Foundation exists because I believe every child deserves safety, love, and opportunity, not by chance, but by design. As she outlined the Foundation's ambitious plans for the coming year, Nathan watched with a father's pride tinged with bittersweet awareness. In helping Lily heal from her past, he had necessarily allowed her to revisit it, to draw purpose from pain in a way few children her age could comprehend. After her speech concluded to a standing ovation, the family was approached by countless well-wishers and potential donors. Through it all, Lily maintained remarkable composure, though Nathan noted the occasional flicker of overwhelm in her eyes. "Let's take a breather," he suggested during a quiet moment, guiding her toward a secluded balcony overlooking the city lights. Outside in the cool evening air, Lily visibly relaxed. "Did I do okay?" "You were extraordinary," Nathan said truthfully. "I couldn't be prouder." She leaned against the stone railing. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life now, that I get to help other kids instead of just trying to survive." Nathan knelt to her eye level, as he had done since the day they met. "You know what amazes me most about you, Lily? Your capacity for turning hardship into hope. Most people who endure what you did either break or become hardened. You transformed it into something beautiful." Lily considered this. "I had help," she said simply. "You and Oliver showed me there was another way to be." Inside, the gala continued without them, a celebration of possibility born from one child's courage and another's kindness. And as father and daughter gazed at the city lights, Nathan silently thanked whatever twist of fate had brought this remarkable girl into his classroom that day. "Dad, have you seen my blue tie? The graduation ceremony starts in 2 hours." Oliver's voice carried down the hallway of the Blackwood mansion, tinged with the anxiety of an 18-year-old on the cusp of a major life transition. Nathan emerged from his office, tie in hand. "Looking for this. Mrs. Winters pressed it this morning." "You're a lifesaver," Oliver sighed, taking the tie. 6 years of growth had transformed him from a small, insecure boy into a tall young man whose prosthetic leg hadn't prevented him from becoming captain of the robotics team and graduating 3rd in his class at Westridge Academy. "Where's Lily?" Nathan asked, checking his watch. "We need to leave in 45 minutes. Still getting ready, I think. She's been in her room forever." Nathan nodded, unsurprised. At 15, Lily approached significant occasions with meticulous attention to detail. Though she'd outgrown many of her early anxieties, certain events, particularly those involving Oliver, brought out her protective instincts and desire for perfection. He knocked gently on her bedroom door. "Lily, everything all right in there?" The door opened to reveal Lily in an elegant blue dress that complemented her eyes, her hair styled in sophisticated waves. The awkward pre-teen had blossomed into a poised young woman whose quiet strength still occasionally caught Nathan off guard. "I can't decide which necklace," she admitted, holding up 2 options, a delicate silver chain with a bridge pendant, a 16th birthday gift from James and Amanda, or a simple strand of pearls Nathan had given her for her last birthday. "Definitely the bridge," Nathan advised. "It's more you." Lily nodded, fastening it around her neck. "I can't believe he's graduating already. It seems like just yesterday." "That you walked into that classroom and changed all our lives?" Nathan finished with a smile. She returned his smile, the memory no longer painful after years of healing and growth. "I was thinking more about how he couldn't even tie his own shoes back then, and now he's headed to MIT. With a full robotics scholarship," Nathan added proudly. Oliver had followed his passion for engineering, developing innovative improvements to prosthetic technology that had attracted attention from multiple universities. The doorbell interrupted their moment of reflection. "That'll be James and Amanda with the twins," Lily said, checking her appearance one final time before heading downstairs. The arrival of James's 2-year-old fraternal twins, Elena and Michael, brought the usual whirlwind of energy to the household. Elena, named after Lily and James's mother, immediately launched herself at Lily with a delighted cry of "Auntie Lily," while Michael gravitated toward Oliver, fascinated as always by his robot leg. Amanda looked exhausted but happy, her academic career as a children's literature professor temporarily on hold while she focused on the twins. "They've been asking about Brother Oliver's big day all week," she told Nathan. "We've practiced sitting quietly, haven't we, children?" The twins nodded solemnly, though their idea of sitting quietly typically lasted approximately 30 seconds. James embraced Lily warmly. "You look beautiful, Firefly. All grown up." "Not quite," she demurred, though she stood nearly at his shoulder now. The Westridge Academy graduation ceremony was held on the expansive school lawn, with rows of white chairs arranged before a flower-bedecked stage. As Oliver's name was called, their entire unconventional family rose in unison, applauding wildly. Oliver's confident stride across the stage to receive his diploma reflected none of the physical challenges that had once defined him. Oliver Michael Blackwood, the headmaster announced, graduating with honors in robotics engineering and advanced mathematics, and recipient of the Westridge Innovation Award for his prosthetic design project. Nathan caught Lily wiping away a tear as she applauded her brother. The bond between the siblings had only strengthened over the years, withstanding typical adolescent turbulence and emerging as something unbreakable. At the reception following the ceremony, Nathan found himself momentarily alone, watching his family interact with Oliver's friends and teachers. James and Amanda were corralling the twins, who had discovered the dessert table. Lily was engaged in animated conversation with Oliver's robotics team, several of whom regarded her with ill-concealed admiration. "Quite a family you've built," observed a familiar voice beside him. Nathan turned to find Jessica Chen, who had remained a friend over the years, her initial investigative interest in their story having evolved into genuine connection. Now an acclaimed journalist with a Pulitzer to her name, she still made time for milestone events in the Blackwood family's life. "Not exactly what I envisioned 8 years ago," Nathan acknowledged, "but better than anything I could have planned." Jessica nodded toward Lily, who was now helping Elena reach for a cookie, while simultaneously keeping Michael from dismantling a decorative arrangement. "She's remarkable. The foundation work she's doing is changing lives." "She insists on being involved in every aspect," Nathan said proudly. "The Bridge Foundation isn't just a name on a letterhead for her, it's personal." "And Catherine?" Jessica asked quietly. "Any word?" Nathan shook his head. "Still serving her sentence. She'll be eligible for parole next year, but I doubt she'll be granted it." Too many violations inside. Their conversation was interrupted by Oliver, who approached with his arm around Lily's shoulders. "Dad, Lily's trying to convince me to add an AI component to my prosthetic research project for MIT. What do you think?" "I think your sister usually has good instincts," Nathan replied diplomatically. "What's your proposal, Lily?" As Lily launched into an enthusiastic explanation of how artificial intelligence could enhance prosthetic responsiveness, Nathan marveled at the journey that had brought them here. 8 years ago, a billionaire, a boy with one leg, and a homeless girl had formed an unlikely alliance against cruelty. Today, they stood as a family shaped by challenge, but defined by love. And as he looked toward the future, Oliver's college years, Lily's continued growth, the Foundation's expanding impact, Nathan knew that whatever came next, they would face it together, just as they had that very first day in a classroom, changed forever by one small act of courage. "You look positively green," Lily observed, watching Oliver pace the length of his MIT dormitory room. At 17, she had grown into a thoughtful young woman whose quiet strength reminded Nathan more of himself than he sometimes cared to admit. "I'm presenting my design to actual prosthetics manufacturers tomorrow," Oliver replied, running his hands through his hair for the 10th time in as many minutes. "People who could potentially change millions of lives with this technology. Of course I'm nervous." Nathan sat on the desk chair, observing the sibling dynamic with quiet amusement. He'd flown to Boston with Lily for Oliver's big presentation, knowing his son needed their support despite his declarations of independence as a college sophomore. "They wouldn't have requested this meeting if they weren't already impressed," Nathan reminded him. "Your prototype results speak for themselves." Oliver had spent the past year developing a revolutionary sensory feedback system for prosthetic limbs, one that allowed users to feel texture, pressure, and temperature. Having lived with a prosthetic leg for most of his life, he understood the limitations of existing technology in ways purely academic researchers couldn't. What if the neural interface doesn't work during the demonstration? Oliver fretted, gesturing to the complex apparatus on his desk. What if— Enough catastrophizing, Lily interrupted firmly. Your design works. I've seen it work. Now sit down and walk us through the presentation one more time. That always helps you organize your thoughts. The authority in her voice was impressive enough that Oliver actually complied, taking a deep breath before retrieving his tablet. As he began his explanation, Nathan noticed how his son's anxiety gradually melted away, replaced by genuine enthusiasm for the science. Later that evening, after Oliver had finally fallen asleep, exhausted from hours of preparation, Nathan and Lily walked across the MIT campus toward their hotel. The autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching beneath their feet. You were good with him tonight, Nathan observed. You've always known exactly what he needs, Lily smiled. It's mutual. He's done the same for me countless times. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, each lost in thought. 10 years had passed since that pivotal day in the classroom, a decade of growth, healing, and unexpected joys alongside the inevitable challenges. I received another letter from Catherine yesterday, Nathan said finally, broaching the subject he'd been avoiding. Her 5th parole hearing is next month. Lily's stride didn't falter, but Nathan sensed her tension. Will they release her this time? Unlikely. She's had multiple disciplinary issues in prison. But she's requesting that you and Oliver submit statements to the parole board. Now Lily did stop, turning to face him directly. Why would she want that? She knows we'd oppose her release. Nathan sighed. I think it's her way of forcing contact, of inserting herself back into our lives in whatever way she can. We don't have to respond, do we? No, Nathan assured her. I've already informed her attorney that neither of you will be participating in the process. They resumed walking, crossing the iconic Harvard Bridge that spanned the Charles River. Halfway across, Lily paused to look out at the water, moonlight dancing on its surface. I used to be so afraid of her, she admitted quietly. Even years after she was imprisoned, I'd have nightmares about her taking me away from you and Oliver. Nathan nodded, remembering the nights he'd sat with her after those dreams, reassuring her of her permanence in their family. And now? He asked. Lily considered this. Now, I mostly feel sorry for her. She had everything, beauty, intelligence, wealth, and she threw it all away because of greed and cruelty. That's a remarkably compassionate perspective, Nathan noted. The Bridge Foundation works with children of incarcerated parents, Lily reminded him. I've learned a lot about the cycles of damage people can inflict when they're damaged themselves. They continued across the bridge in thoughtful silence until Lily spoke again. Dad, there's something I've been wanting to discuss with you. The seriousness in her tone made Nathan give her his full attention. What is it? I've decided what I want to do after graduation next year. Nathan had carefully avoided pressuring Lily about her future plans, though he'd assumed she might attend college while continuing her work with the foundation. I want to pursue a law degree, she said decisively, specializing in child advocacy and family law. Pride bloomed in Nathan's chest. That's a perfect fit for you. But Lily continued, I'd like to take a gap year first, to work full-time at the foundation and expand our emergency placement program. There are still too many kids sleeping under bridges. The reference to her own past was deliberate, Nathan knew. Though Lily had healed and thrived beyond anyone's expectations, she never forgot where she came from, or the children still living that reality. I think that's an excellent plan, he told her. The foundation would benefit tremendously from your full-time involvement. Lily smiled, relief evident in her expression. I wasn't sure how you'd feel about me delaying college. You've always emphasized education. Education takes many forms, Nathan replied. Some of your most valuable learning has happened outside classrooms. Besides, he added with a smile, you've more than proven your capacity for hard work and dedication. As they neared the end of the bridge, Lily linked her arm through Nathan's, a gesture reminiscent of her childhood, but now one of equal partnership rather than dependence. 10 years, she said softly. Sometimes it feels like yesterday that I walked into that classroom. Other times it feels like I've always been a Blackwood. You have always been a Blackwood, Nathan responded. You just hadn't found us yet. The simple truth of this statement seemed to settle something in Lily. They continued toward their hotel, father and daughter, united by choice rather than biology, but no less family for it. Behind them, the bridge stretched across the water, a fitting symbol for the journey that had brought them together and the future that awaited them all. 6 months later, spring sunshine streamed through the windows of Nathan's home office as he reviewed the quarterly reports from Blackwood Industries. The company had flourished under his leadership, expanding beyond its original tech focus into medical innovations inspired by Oliver's work. A knock at the door interrupted his concentration. "Come in," he called, expecting Mrs. Winters with his afternoon coffee. Instead, Lily entered, dressed in the professional attire she'd adopted for her work at the Bridge Foundation. Her gap year was half over, and she'd already implemented significant changes to their emergency housing program. "Do you have a minute?" she asked, uncharacteristic nervousness evident in her voice. Nathan immediately set aside his work. "Of course, everything all right?" Lily sat across from him, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her skirt. "I've received a letter," she began, then hesitated. "From Catherine." Nathan's body tensed involuntarily. Catherine Reynolds had been denied parole yet again 3 months earlier, ensuring she would remain incarcerated for at least another year. "How did she contact you?" "All her correspondence is supposed to be screened." "She sent it through her attorney," Lily explained. "It's—" She paused, searching for words. "Not what I expected." She placed an envelope on the desk between them. "I wanted to discuss it with you before deciding how to respond." Nathan regarded the envelope with apprehension. "Have you read it?" Lily nodded. "Twice. And it's an apology, or at least her version of one." Nathan's surprise must have shown on his face because Lily continued, "I was skeptical too, but it seems, I don't know, different from her usual manipulations." "May I?" Nathan gestured toward the letter. "Please." The letter was written on standard prison stationery, Catherine's once elegant handwriting now cramped and irregular. "Lily, after 10 years of hatred and bitterness, I've finally accepted that I lost. Not just my freedom or my marriage, but my humanity. Prison provides ample time for reflection, and I've been forced to confront the person I became. I won't insult your intelligence by claiming complete rehabilitation or asking forgiveness. What I did to you and Oliver is unforgivable. But I want you to know that I recognize the damage I caused, and I deeply regret it. The girl who stood in that classroom doorway protecting Oliver showed more courage and decency than I had ever possessed. You deserved the family you found, and they deserved you. I expect nothing in return for this acknowledgement. Consider it, if you will, the long overdue recognition of your worth from someone who once refused to see it. Catherine Reynolds." Nathan set the letter down, momentarily speechless. Of all the scenarios he'd imagined over the years, Catherine expressing genuine remorse had never been among them. "What do you think?" Lily asked, studying his reaction. "I think people can change," Nathan replied carefully. "Whether Catherine has truly changed or is simply trying a new approach, I can't say." Lily nodded. "That was my assessment too, but regardless of her motives, something about this letter feels like closure, like the final chapter of a story that's been lingering unfinished. Do you want to respond?" "I'm still deciding," Lily admitted. Part of me feels it would be healthier to simply acknowledge it privately and move forward. Another part wonders if a response might help other children whose lives she affected. How so? The Bridge Foundation has been developing a restorative justice program, Lily explained. Helping children impacted by adults who harmed them find healing through facilitated communication when appropriate. Nathan understood immediately. And you're considering whether Catherine's case might provide insights for that program. Exactly. Lily's eyes held the thoughtful determination that had become her hallmark. Not for my benefit, I've made my peace with that chapter of my life, but for others still struggling with similar traumas. Nathan marveled silently at his daughter's capacity to transform even this unexpected development into something constructive for others. Whatever you decide, he assured her, you have my complete support. Their conversation was interrupted by Mrs. Winters announcing that Oliver had arrived unexpectedly from MIT. They found him in the living room, practically vibrating with excitement, a folder clutched in his hands. "They approved it!" he exclaimed without preamble. "Full funding for clinical trials." The news triggered a family celebration. Oliver's sensory feedback system for prosthetics would move forward with backing from both the university and a major medical technology firm. His innovative design promised to revolutionize quality of life for millions of prosthetic users worldwide. That evening, as the three of them shared a special dinner to mark Oliver's achievement, Nathan found himself reflecting on the extraordinary journey they had traveled together. From that desperate day in the classroom to this moment of triumph, their path had been neither straight nor easy, but it had led them to something remarkable. "A toast," he proposed, raising his glass. "To new beginnings." "To innovation," Oliver added, grinning. "To bridges," Lily concluded softly. "Those we build and those we cross." As their glasses clinked together, Nathan studied the faces of his children, both adults now, each finding their way to meaningful contributions that extended far beyond their family circle. Oliver would continue pioneering advancements that gave others the physical freedom he had once been denied. Lily would dedicate herself to ensuring vulnerable children found safety and belonging, as she eventually had. And Nathan, his role had evolved from rescuer to supporter, from primary protector to proud witness. The frightened, defensive children who had first found each other in that classroom had grown into confident, compassionate adults who no longer needed his protection, though they would always have his love. Family, Nathan reflected, was not what he had once imagined it would be. It was infinitely more complex, more challenging, and more rewarding than the conventional vision he had once held. It was a homeless girl with the courage to stand against cruelty. It was a boy with one leg finding his strength. It was a father learning that love transcends biology. It was bridges built between broken places, creating pathways to healing. It was, in the end, the family they had chosen, and that had chosen them. And in that choice lay all the difference.